It's amazing to have Mary Lynn Lathrop and Alicia Lumina with us. Ladies, if you want to take a minute, introduce yourselves and a little bit about yourselves. We'll go to Andrew, and then we'll start talking about the Lifeguard Eye.
Sure. So you call me an AI skeptic to begin with. I am officially converted and now do see how this can be actually helpful and incredibly so in our aquatic world as we try and keep people safe in the water.
With an extensive aquatic background, though, correct, Mary Lynn?
Yes, more years than I care to share.
But we
And
all have the
multiple
yeah,
properties, waterfront, rivers, pools, ponds, oceans, and you name it. Yes.
absolutely. So again, I represent. So for all of us that are maybe scared of AI or unsure of it, I wanted you to know that there is an aquatic background and a few others that have been converted. Please, Alicia, tell us about yourself.
Yes, I share a very similar stance to Mary Lynn. Not sure how it was going to be able to pertain to the aquatic world, but I've been very pleasantly surprised and continue to expand our knowledge with the system and in general. And I'm at like the local level with a Y.
Fantastic. Thank you. Andrew, see if we can go 3 for 3. Were you anti or unsure of AI too with an aquatic background?
Thanks, Wes. Yeah, for sure. I was definitely a little hesitant in the first introduction with Mark, but I can speak obviously now, having used it for the past year or so, that it's definitely swayed me to be a true believer now in how it can be a huge tool for companies like ours kind of moving forward.
That's great to hear. And again, we'll go back to our ladies here in a second, but that's really what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about how AI and specifically the Lifeguard Eye is applied and used. Maybe it makes your life better, maybe it makes your staff stronger, etc. So you all in the audience can understand it. Again, it's kind of a treat to have actual operators that live and breathe with this system and have kind of developed it. So I'll go to you, Mary Lynn and Alicia. But if you would just kind of talk to us about how the Lifeguard Eye got started in your life and what made you even think about partnering with, an AI system, and technology and all those scary words.
Sure. Well, as an aquatic professional, we're always looking at ways to make things safer. And we know how very important our lifeguards are. But I don't know about some of you, but when I first got certified to be a lifeguard, we didn't even use rescue tubes. We would just jump in the water, do a cross chest carry, and haul you out and hope for the best.
Yeah.
And, when the rescue tubes were introduced, we were like, oh my goodness, this makes life so much easier.
Yeah.
Why didn't we think of this before? And at this point, I kind of feel the same way about this technology, right? So why didn't we think of this before? This gives us alerts. It tells us where to look. It can track huge numbers of people, and it gives us that opportunity to again not remove the lifeguard, but to give them another very useful tool that helps them really identify and focus and know where to look. So I am excited about what this AI can do.
That is a fantastic perspective, and I saw Andrew's head nod. Now I'll come back to you, I promise, Andrew. But to Mary Lynn's point, Alicia, what this technology can do. We talked about, your rescue tubes. I remember doing a duck pluck, Mary Lynn, so that dates me, right? How have you seen this technology help you, Alicia, in your role relevant to the lifeguard, relevant to their job, and what you've been able to learn from it?
It's interesting because obviously we saw it prior to the system how our guards were discovering things, but not necessarily at the same speed or to the same sense that we were hoping. So being able to see the system be integrated and go through the process of really training the system of identifying what we feel is the appropriate thing has been a very big learning experience for myself and my leadership, in addition to the guards that have been on the team through that transition as well. We've seen more of like an investigative mindset, I think, with our guards, which has been a huge step in the right direction for us, in addition to just that relief, knowing that there is kind of that system kind of around them, knowing that it's not a fail safe, but it is something that will just provide a little bit more comfort. In addition, for us as supervisors, just to almost know that we know that they're doing, the right thing. Just that almost internal check for us as leadership. It's been a good tool in that facet.
I took a deep breath of relaxation just hearing you talk about having the reassurances. And again, to the audience out there, Alicia, Mary Lynn, and Andrew didn't know each other. Ironically, Alicia, your answer that you just gave is what Andrew and I talked about. Andrew, would you mind expanding and talk about, before we got on, we talked about that reassurance from the auditing to the examining to the, am I going to get watched today? And Alicia touched on that. I think you have some experience with that a little bit.
Yeah, so to give everybody a little background too, so I am co-founder and president of Elite Amenity Management, and I think I should go into a little background into what it is we do as a company, because I think it's relevant too. We're coming at it from a little bit of a different experience from Mary Lynn and also Alicia. So what we do as a company is any, let's call it condo or rental building, if they have any form of amenity space, we actually manage the amenity spaces for them. So we're coming at it from a very private pool kind of aspect, right? So of the 100 properties that we currently manage throughout New York, we've been in business for 20 years. We have everything from, it could be a 2-lane lap pool to we even manage like some country clubs as well, like large outdoor facilities. But for the most part, let's call 90% of our contracts are kind of indoor swimming pools in what would be like a condo throughout New York City. And I think what Wes and I were discussing a little earlier too is, especially being somebody who came from an aquatic background and was a swimmer kind of growing up, right? I used to always feel bad for my parents when they would sit in the pool for 4 or 5 hours, right? It's hot in that pool, right? You could definitely get a little tired, uncomfortable. And now if you put a lifeguard in a situation like that for 4 or 5 hours, right? And now you give also the idea where obviously it's no, it's not a hidden problem that we're having now with our employees and our lifeguards too, in terms of like the attention spans of our lifeguards are also an issue, right? From where we were even at 20 years ago, just because of screens. So now you add in they're on a shift for 6 hours, right? It's a very hot atmosphere, right? What we're super interested in, and we've talked with Mark about too, is not only looking at LifeguardEye from a safety standpoint and having that safety net, but also eventually being able to kind of look at the data of our lifeguards as well and see how well they're actually performing, right? Are they scanning like they should be, right? Is their head kind of in one position? What's the body language like? Are they walking the deck, right? Like to keep themselves busy. For some of our facilities too, we have managers who are on site, right? And they're able to kind of oversee the lifeguards. Some of our facilities, what we have is we have one lifeguard on site and that's it. And you have a supervisor who's popping in to check on them. So what this allows us to do is keep an eye on the staff as well to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. So it's been fun to kind of watch and see how our original, when we first met with Mark, I think my hesitancy was, I think maybe the lifeguards will be complacent. And I'm curious to hear what Alicia and Mary Lynn have to say about this as well. Because the technology's there, are they going to be, we don't have to worry anymore because, right, the AI is there.
The alarm will get it. It'll beep, right? I can miss it.
Yeah, well, I don't have to do anything, right? It'll just beep and set it off. But what we've actually found in doing our interviews with the lifeguards is they're actually more engaged than they were prior, because they kind of know that they have this, let's call it AI in the background. So they're scanning the pool, right? They're counting the seconds somebody's under the water, right? And they're kind of being interactive to see, hey, can I catch this before it even goes off, right? So it's almost like someone's watching, right? But not like me coming down to a pool with a clipboard, right? And auditing my lifeguards, more like where they get nervous. And I think, Wesley, we had some conversation about this as well, right? When you audit lifeguards, it's like they get very tense and tight. But that someone's watching them 24 hours and they're not auditing them, it kind of makes them a little more attentive in the matter.
Oh, spot on. Mary Lynn, have you felt that? And Alicia too, but I think we've touched on that over the last week or so. How do you feel about what Andrew's saying?
Yeah, absolutely. We were also concerned about that, and we had purposefully picked a location where we knew our guards were strong. And it's almost a little competitive with the AI, thinking of it as an extra set of eyes, like you said, to say who's going to get it first. And it became apparent to us that we were actually missing some things because we actually just couldn't see what was happening. So the non-bias of the AI system simply means it's constantly tracking, are all of these people above water or underwater, and have they stopped moving? And we're all people. We have built-in biases and all that, and the computer just doesn't. So this person stopped. We're saying, well, they stopped because, and the computer's going, hello, it stopped. They stopped. We have an issue here,
why.
right?
Yeah.
We don't care why. Go check it out. And so, it's almost become a little bit competitive, and we've done a lot in the training of the system too, to say, well, the AI is right, or we're right, and in that world, and it becomes a back and forth conversation around, what are we looking at? And to Andrew's point earlier, then it's the investigation. Let's go find out why. And one of the stories that I like to tell is that it sees stuff that the guards literally can't. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is, the guard went over, we had an incident where the guard went over and talked to a group of teenagers and managed what was going on, because it was, teenage behavior. And then, and then turned around and walked away. And the guards went right back to what they were doing. And you can see the system alert. And the guard's like, wait, what? I just talked to them. And it's like, no, you need to go back and have another conversation. And let's correct that behavior and educate them on what is and is not safe when we're around the water. So it has been a true learning. And I do think the back and forth, it's a healthy competition at this point.
And Alicia, I want to get to the data too in a minute, but what I love about what you're saying is, as aquatic people, and yes, I'll exclude those that are not aquatic people, we understand the nuances. Can you see around that corner? Is it 8 seconds or is it 12 seconds? Does your supervisor actually walk? One of the things I told Andrew is, I love using the LifeguardEye because I can tell you how long your back was to the pool when you thought you were rotating around. Because like you said, Mary Lynn, our head and our conscious tell us, well, this is where I'm walking. Yeah, but for 9 seconds, you never look. And it's very clinical in the fact that I'm not abrasive with it. I teased Andrew about being an auditor back in the day. I could hide in the bushes and you'd be looking for me. Well, now I'm there. And so it just reaffirms that what you're doing is right, and I can reinforce it. And I know we want to get to you too, Alicia. We've touched on this. Nothing we've talked about so far has to do with like the actual drowning person, which is why I know Mark made the system. But Alicia, you found some ways to extrapolate information, and we call it data, but is there something or some pieces of information that have been meaningful to you and your team that you've been able to pull from this? And again, keep in mind, audience, we still haven't even talked about the fact that it stops you from drowning. But what have you been able to get, Alicia?
Yeah, thank you for that. I feel that we've been able to find either those reoccurring instances that we're seeing that is maybe a lapse in training on ours, of maybe they're not grasping some of the reasons why we're asking them to go over and talk to them, like people's definition of horseplay or being underwater for too long. Sometimes
I see Andrew's head's going up and down. Sorry, keep going. This is great.
Yeah. It has a varying spectrum to that. Like what I consider horseplay is different than what, my other lifeguards, or even what the AI system is, the LifeguardEye is letting us know. So that reporting has been really helpful of, in the system, you can look up and it'll bring up all of the kind of alerts as to why the system is going off, so that we as, I would assume any type of leadership can go in and really dive into why is that going off? How long was it going off? And did a lifeguard then get up and have the conversation? Or was it, all right, thank you so much, let me move on from that? So, and we've found that they're more on their toes, and then we can have those more even lifeguard specific conversations, not necessarily to the entire group, but to an individual that may be struggling with some of the rules or some of the instances, in addition to kind of a fail-safe. Like they've asked questions about, hey, this is the instance that happened the other night. Was I in the right? Was I in the wrong? What happened? I don't understand why that was going off for this instance. So it's sparked a lot of good questions to then have that, you know, actual conversation, but to be able to look at it together and say, let's actually talk about it instead of, well, if it went off, it went off. It's been
Yeah,
really beneficial in that.
that's wonderful. I will hold my thoughts. Andrew, I saw your head nodding up and down. Where do you take with that?
I think so. I think a couple things. I think my biggest thing, like we talked about here, and obviously the reason that Mark put this all together, right, was the safety aspect of a body drowning, right? And I think as operators now, what we're finding is that it's always better to be proactive instead of reactive. And that's my biggest surprise in actually using LifeguardEye is really what it's doing is, to Alicia's point, it's kind of forcing you to kind of have conversations with guards about how to prevent things in the future also, right? And I think that's what we're taking away, and particularly on the residential side, and I think this goes into what Alicia was talking about. You're, especially in a residential building, you have the same swimmers who are coming down,
Yes, sir.
and they have the same habits. So what LifeguardEye forces you to do is stop, it forces the staff to stop making assumptions, right? Because I've seen this guy every day. He swims at 6 a.m., right? I know he can swim. I don't have to watch him, right? I can pay attention to something else. I can daydream. I can think about my homework. I can whatever, right? But if LifeguardEye is telling you like, hey, pay attention, right? It's like, oh, wait a minute. This guy that I've been watching for the past year and a half swim the same amount of laps every time. Now it's taking the assumption out of it, right? Which is now forcing the lifeguards to kind of rethink how they're processing things.
In addition to what you're saying, Andrew, we've had similar conversations even with our members of that education moment to our members of going, hey, I'm not sure if you know what LifeguardEye is. This is what we're wearing. This is why I'm having a conversation with you. And it's been really eye-opening. I'll give the example of, you know, underwater extended breath holding. We have it, you're not to be underwater for more than 10 seconds. And our members don't, you know, maybe not understand why. So it's been really cool to see that conversation go both ways, us to the guards and even the guards to the members of like, hey, this is why our rule is in place. And then some of the members to go, I had no idea that that is a rule, that is something that I should be aware of. I've always held my breath for a long period of time because in high school or college, that's what we did. And, you know, to know, and we've had those conversations of them going, you've probably saved our life for, you know, moving forward if they are underwater for too long. So that's been really a cool conversation both ways.
That's amazing. Our friends at Seth Takes a Breath at Underwater Hypoxia will love to hear that. But to your point, I know, Mary, I saw your head bobbing up and down too, is if a lifeguard just talks to a guest and has no foundation to it, that's a hard conversation. If a manager talks to a CEO, but now, A, I have this on for a reason, and B, by the way, here, let me drop some life safety knowledge on you, some real life safety. Mary Lynn, go ahead. I know we'll get to you and then we'll get you out of here, but yeah, go ahead.
Well, it's also a truth sayer, right? So in an emergency, in an instance, when things are happening, everyone has their personal view of what happened. And what we know from investigating into things is that as long, you know, that's normal. That what I saw is different than what you saw, and you know, what I perceived and thought is different than what, you know, the next person over did. And so when you have the camera and it's taking pictures of this in a live real time, we can go back and take a look at that. And we can say what I saw, what I didn't see, what I should have seen, what they saw, and okay, that makes sense now. So it is a bit of a truth teller too.
I love it. Two things for you. I'll start here with you, Marilyn. One, it's kind of changes how I think about in-service. It changes how I think about how I can teach it, how I can follow up with it, how I can review it. And then my second question is, and I know it's separate, is for a lifeguard who goes to another property or is used to this, how do they feel? So I'll start with the in-service. Has it changed? And then again, for anybody else, what's that like when a guard goes to a property that doesn't have it, that does have it? But let's start with in-service, Marilyn.
Yeah, so on the in-services, and I think Alicia touched on this, is that we began to see where some of the gaps were. Some of the gaps in training, some of the things we didn't know we needed to know, and taking that and then being able to extrapolate it out into our in-services. And on the flip side of that, when we do our in-services and, we role play what, a bather who needs help might be, it sets
Yeah.
off the machine, right? So, so you get lots of alerts. And so working through that piece too was kind of fun.
Learning our own challenges. Don't do the in-service
Yes,
too good because the alarm will go
exactly.
off. Okay. I didn't know that was coming, but
Exactly.
good to know.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Alicia, anything you
That's
want to add
fantastic.
on that? Nothing to the in-services part, but definitely to, guards going to other sites with or without the device has been interesting. It's been, some of our guards that have been on for an extended time. So this is just part of their normal habit. Grab your band, clock in, do the thing. It's more of, as part of an association, we share some staff throughout our locations. And it's been interesting to kind of bring somebody up to speed quickly and go, whoa, what? We've had a lot of conversations about it, but every time we bring on those new staff, it's just kind of like AI is like a hug. Like it's around you. It is a little daunting at first, and some of them are kind of freaked out by it, but I think it's been a pretty quick learning experience because a lot of the times it is going off because they miss something, and sometimes it is a glare issue. But
Like
sometimes,
a real learning, real learning
we've
experience.
had a couple of instances where we've had some other guards from, our other locations that have come in and haven't seen things the same way our guards have been picking up certain things. So as much as we trained the AI, it's still training us, which has been
cute.
it's been interesting to see that.
Andrew, that's a great, you think you're doing a good job and you think you're doing a good job. And like we said earlier, Mary, when we met, is these guys are A+ guards. They just can't physically see it. And then you put a new guard in that spot who's also an A+ guard, but not in this property. And all of a sudden you're like, hey, I got to look over here. What's that been like for you, Andrew, from the staff perspective side? Thank you, ladies.
Yeah, I think any lifeguard who first is introduced to LifeguardEye is, I think there's a little bit of hesitancy in terms of like, oh, I'm going to be replaced, right? And then I think after the shift is over, right, I think it's more like, okay, I'm not being replaced, but this is a tool to have in the tool belt, same as a rescue tube, right? Same as a whistle, right? It's just kind of another added layer of protection to help them do their job. So what we found is, in particular, and I think across industries, it's always like, lifeguards are such a commodity that you're always going to need to cover at other locations, right? Like it just is what it is. You're going to have some people who are not used to working at your facility. You come over, new rules, new stuff you have to learn. So what we found is like for the guards who've come over and worked at this particular location, it's kind of like, oh, when is my facility going to get this, right? Like they enjoyed working with it and they're actually looking forward to it. And I think also too, even our managers, right? Because sometimes we'll have a manager who goes out on PTO, we'll have a supervisor kind of fill in, right? Or somebody could just be covering them for the week. Even the managers are like, wow, I can't wait until I have this at my facility as well. Because it's also, we're managing, a large, let's call it a large amenity space as well. There's other things that are going on, aerobics classes, right? Treatment rooms, you have obviously the gym, you have a whole bunch of different factors, outdoor spaces, work from home spaces. But I think this is kind of also forcing the managers to focus a little more on the pool as well, which is also something they really, enjoy having as well as a tool.
That's spot on. And again, Andrew, we're not kicking you out, but just for the sake of time, I want to make sure that I think you're spot on about the managers and leadership for anybody paying attention closer to the pool. But to end with you, Mary and Alicia, how has those conversations helped with the community, with the executives, with all the touch points to say, hey, this system's here, we are using it, and this is how I can articulate? What's that been like? And then, we'll let you go to some of the fun stuff I know you've got planned.
So definitely pleasantly surprised in that space. We were expecting a lot more pushback, a lot more what's going on. I think right now the reality is cameras are everywhere. And if you're, out of your own personal home, the understanding is that there's a very real possibility you're on camera. And it was more about where is it going and who has access, right? Not about not about the actual cameras. And so obviously we're keeping that to a very limited number of folks who can take a look at that, and managing that piece, I do believe, gave everybody the comfort level that they needed. From the guards side, we're upfront about it. Yeah, we have this. You are on camera. We are watching what's going on. And once they get comfortable with that, away we go. So it is a conversation that has to be had, but we were pleasantly surprised that, we're open and honest about what's happening, and people understood.
That is fantastic. And thank you. I know we'll let you run here. Alicia, any closing remarks? And we just appreciate you guys' willingness to talk about this and how it's impacted you.
Yeah, I again echo what Mary Lynn said. It's the guards have just been, they were initially worried about it being in a punitive way. We were really clear, it's not about that. So I think it's that initial conversation and training that really, I think, took us to the next level of being able to be, bring this to where it needs to be. We serve a lot of people in a lot of different ways at our facility, so it's been very eye-opening, and I'm very thankful that we could take part in this.
That is fantastic. And go ahead. Yes, please, Marilyn. Yeah.
Yes,
And I was just going to say, there's no end in sight, right? Because what it can do now, it can do more. And we've been talking with Mark about other things that it could potentially help with, and the amount of potential for growth and support in this space was eye-opening for me.
That is awesome. And it began with, are you above or underwater? I mean, that on a lake 15 years ago, people assuming, that's where it began. And now it's, where are they entering? Where are they exiting? To Andrew's point, what's the manager saying? And again, I know the ladies, you have to run. Andrew, if you want to stay on, happy to have you, and not to cut you off, Mark. But I think you hit the nail on the head, Mary Lynn, of we can get and understand, are you above or underwater? Great. Now, how does it impact our entire operation? I have goosebumps. Oh, I'm so weird. Okay.